Next we have the filter menu option, and I'm going to select the image layer here just to see better what the filter things can do. The first thing in there is the last filter, which is handy when you are applying the same filter to many different things frequently. It'll allow you to basically just do the thing you did last. Also Control F as the shortcut there. Convert for smart filters. Now, smart filters are something that help to create non-destructive changes to your layers. If you've got smart objects, which as I explained earlier are objects that retain their initial properties, you can always go back to that. And vector objects and things like that, smart filters will apply to those in a non-destructive way, meaning that they're not permanent and you can always update and adjust them. Filter gallery, this will give you the kind of a preview window of all the different filters in here. So it's quick and easy to come through and just see what would these filters do, before you actually apply them and see them. So you might want to do the color pencil one and then mess around with the different options here just to see how that's going to affect your image. And then you can apply it there if you want to. Adaptive wide angle. So this is a kind of a tool where you can adjust the angle and scale of your image. It's a little hard to explain, but you can kind of see what's happening here when you change your settings. You can choose different lenses per se for what you want this wide angle to do. The camera raw filter. You can use this with Smart Filter to enhance saturation, clarity, contrast, things like that without destroying your original camera raw file. This is really for heavy photo editing. Lens correction. If you've got different lens issues you want to correct, you can come in here and check out the options for that. Liquify is a tool that's been around in Photoshop for a long time. It essentially pushes your image around like as if it were liquid, just like that. So if it were wet paint, I guess would be a good way to put it. We have vanishing point, which you can use to create a vanishing point perspective in your image. Then you've got all the actual filters. 3D, blur filters, blur gallery, specific blur filters, distortion filters, noise. These are things that you really got to kind of play around with and just see what they do. There are a lot of really cool things, a lot of very different things. And there's other filters you can browse online. So that's the filter section. Now the 3D section, I'm not going to go through all the 3D options because these all really need to be gone through in a 3D tutorial specifically. Otherwise they're just not going to make a lot of sense. But if you would like to, you can go through now and just play around with it and see kind of what that does. The view section it really has to do with the way that you're looking at your artwork, your images. And there's a lot of different ways to look at it depending on what you need. Generally we're looking at it as a working CMYK, but these are all different ways for print specifically what you can look at. Pixel aspect ratio. You've got you can zoom in and zoom out. That's basic. You can also do that with your Control plus, Control minus, or as you can see, I've got this navigator window open, and you can do that here as well. And then fit it on the screen, fit the artboard on the screen, specifically 100% or 200%, print size. These are all ways to view your document. The rulers, which I touched on earlier, that's how you can get those to show up or go away. I usually just use Control R, Control plus R, or Option R. Apologize if I forget to say Option for the Mac users. I'm on a PC. You've got Snap and Snap 2. These are really helpful things to have in conjunction with your rulers. This will allow you to snap things together so without having to try to eyeball them. So for instance, if I have my guides out here, now maybe I've got one that I put over here, and then I've got my image and I want to move that, you can kind of see as I get closer it snaps to the guide or to the center of the document here or the center of the document there. You can see the pink lines or when I'm moving it around to show that it's snapping. So that's a really handy feature to have. And then you can lock your guides, you can clear them all out. If you don't clear them out and you want to get rid of some, you just drag them off of the screen. Show you that real quick. There's a guide, drag it away. I'm sure you noticed that my guides kind of disappeared a minute ago. I hit use Control H, that'll make them appear and disappear. So this whole section here all has to do with just controlling your guides and how you see them. For the web design side of things, these are your slices options that you can see, locking your slices or clearing out your slices. I don't have any slices currently created, so there's nothing that I can show you right there. And that's that for the view section. Then we have the Windows section. The Windows section has to do mostly with the windows that you have for your palettes and your active items and how you see those. You can, if you have several things that you have open, which I only have one currently, but if you have a bunch open, you can choose to have Photoshop automatically tile them all vertically or lay them out in any of these ways that you like, or cascade them or any of those. This is also how you could have them just float everything, like I have right here in a floating window. You can have Photoshop float everything if you had them all in tabs already. This is where earlier when I talked about the workspace, you can also see workspace options here, just like here. You can choose your workspace or reset it. Another way to get to the keyboard shortcuts and menus. We've got extensions, the Photoshop extensions. This is something where people develop extensions in Photoshop. And I don't have any on this system, but I do have some that I like to use. And extensions are basically add-ons that do things that Photoshop doesn't already do. One of the things I have is called Gridify, and what that'll do is for the grids, or for the guidelines here, you can set up specific grids of spacing. Say I wanted this to be divided evenly into thirds, or I just want to have the outer edges of this without having to put my own guides out there, or however I want them. I can use that add-on to do that for me, or that extension to do that for me. And there's a lot of extensions out there. So that's worth taking some time to see what extensions have been created that could be useful to you. All these things in the next section here have to do with the palettes that you're seeing over here on the side. All the ones that are checked are the ones that I have open and visible to me right now. So you can see I have adjustments, that's checked, and that is right here. And I have, let's see, the navigator's checked. The navigator's right here. So all these checked items are over here. Some of them aren't checked but are out there, and that would be because they're in the tabs. So if I look here, I can see there's channels. Channels is not checked, but I do have it out here, right there. Now if I were to look at it, channels is checked and layers is unchecked. This is how you can get the things that you don't already have out into your palettes over here. So if I choose, I don't have 3D out there. So if I choose 3D, 3D just popped up down here. I can drag it out, or I can add it in as a tab in one of my other groups. And this is really where you see the power of being able to customize your workspace to however you like it. So now I've got 3D as a tab in here, if that made sense. Or I can make it its own other thing here, and you can just kind of add things in and out however you please. And then for each one of these menu items, I should point out that there are options. You can click in all these little 3-line menu looking things. And that's how you would also close it, or close an entire group. And then we have also options and tools down here. And then the thing at the bottom, it's only got one. It says PS Example 01. That's the file I have open. If I had more files open, this would get bigger. And then you can click on these. I'm not sure where that's actually useful, but it just lists out all the active files you have right there. Okay, and then last but not least, we have the help section. That is pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of different help things in here. Photoshop will tell you what's new. You can go onto their website, their support center, see about this version that you're using, various different things. This is also where you can log in and out of your account. So yeah, help and help tools are in that section. And that's everything for the menu lesson. Like I said, I kind of glossed over a few things there in essence to keep this kind of short and not mind-numbingly boring. If there's anything that anybody really wants to know more about, I can either do a specific lesson on it, or I can try to add it in here, whichever works, or I can even comment back. If you put a comment into the comment fields there, I'll respond to you with my answer. Okay, thank you again, and we'll see you in the next lesson.